We're live. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. So we are going to go to number 7 here, the 8 R's of the gut and whole body health. Today we're going to be talking about repairing and leaky gut syndrome. So just to kind of recap, like I said before, I'm going to make this really curated, so short and sweet. So we've got the first one's removing offending foods. So this is where we had talked about maybe doing like a food sensitivity test or an elimination diet to see which foods do not work best for you, even though they are deemed healthy. Number 2, reducing pathogens and biofilms. As a recap, we really talked a lot about oral health here and how biofilms house that bacteria, especially in the mouth. That's where you see the tartar and the plaque. Those are biofilms that have been hardened. So where else in the body can we have biofilms and how can we get rid of them? And then number 3, we had talked about replace, so supporting your microbiome and digestion, improving your gut ecology. So we really talked about here about, apple cider vinegar, bile salts, different supplements. And then the reinoculate, number 4, adding beneficial organisms. So we really talked about what probiotics and prebiotics can do for you for adding in those beneficial organisms. Number 5, we talked about adding in fiber and grit. So a lot of like adding in maybe some fulvic minerals into the diets. Talking about how to make sure that, so making sure that our digestion speed's not too fast, not too slow, right there in the middle. So if we're having a bowel movement about once a day up to 2 times a day, you're probably in good standing. We want to make sure that we're not running to the bathroom like 30, 45 minutes after we're eating, because that tells us that we're not absorbing what we're eating. It's literally going straight through. And another part is we don't want to be constipated either. We don't want what we ate 5 days ago finally coming through our digestive tract. So making sure we're adding in those warm like soups and beverages before a meal can really help make sure we have adequate digestion speed. And since right now we're in the colder months, I'm hoping that's a little easier to do. All right, so we're going to get started on leaky gut syndrome. So what is leaky gut syndrome? It is also known as intestinal permeability. It is a common but not usually tested by doctors. So when we think about our gut issues that we've been having, it's usually some form of leaky gut syndrome that we'll talk about here in just a minute. When we think about the intestinal lining, it has 3 critical functions. But before I get kind of started into that, we've got, when we think about our intestinal lining, so we got to think about where do our nutrients and minerals get most absorbed by? It's by the small intestines. Okay, so that's the wall that we're really kind of talking about here. And it's a single cell wall, as you can see here in the diagram. So what we want and kind of have is a sieve. Okay, this is where the normal tight junctions are supposed to be. So we've got a sieve here to where only the things that are supposed to pass through. Okay, so it is helping us for okay, so if we have some leaky gut syndrome or say some of these junctions are inflamed, they are going to start to spread apart as you see here. You're going to have different, whether it's toxins, particles, things that shouldn't be passing through are passing through into the bloodstream. Okay. All right. So signs you have a leaky gut. We were thinking about that, what about food allergies, food intolerances, digestive issues that we've been talking about, mood imbalances, brain fog, skin issues, hormonal imbalances. A lot of these things you've probably heard before if you've attended one of the gut hub because we talk about it all the time. So when the intestinal line becomes, overly permeable, now its critical functions are compromised. So now it's impaired nutrient absorption. So if you have leaky gut syndrome, you may actually start to notice maybe being more like malabsorbed of nutrients. So we've also have a immune system overload too. So more maybe toxins, harmful bacteria, and everything. Any kind of like foreign invaders are now triggering chronic inflammation into the body. And chronic inflammation, we also have to think about autoimmune diseases too. So Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, even psoriasis on the skin. Those all can potentially be caused by leaky gut syndrome. So what happens to the body? Okay, so when we're thinking about leaky gut syndrome here, what are some causes? Because, I was trying to find statistics. Okay, how many people in the United States have leaky gut syndrome? And there really are no statistics to it. Dr. Lewis says everyone has a degree of leaky gut syndrome. And, I definitely agree after looking up what the causes are of leaky gut syndrome. Because if we have unless you've never touched any excess sugar, never had any issues with emotional stress or physical trauma, or don't eat the standard American diet, then you probably have nothing to worry about. But we do live in the United States. Most of us do have the standard American diet, and we definitely have probably had different kind of medications. So things like antibiotics, antacids, any kind of steroids, even ibuprofen, NSAIDs, environmental toxins, plastics, gut infections. We got, H. pylori, if we have any intestinal parasites. I know we talked about that before. If we've, indulged any alcohol, dairy, grains, gluten, those all can cause issues with our gut permeability lining. Things to kind of think about short-term and long-term emotional stress. Okay, those will also affect the gut health. We talked about the gut-brain axis, okay? Physical trauma. So I came across a study that there are shifts in the microbiome can be observed within hours after traumatic injury, especially within concussions and TBIs, so brain injuries, which I thought that was interesting. But again, with that gut-brain axis, that makes sense. So when we're thinking about, okay, so how can I lower my risks here? Okay, the standard American diet, we always go what the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the time we're eating the foods that fuel us, make us feel good. 20% of the time we're eating those fun foods, right? Like we're going to a birthday party, we'll have a sliver of cake and guilt-free. All right, we've got holidays coming up. So are we going to have, those Thanksgiving meals just that one day? Or are we going to have a Thanksgiving meal that whole entire week? Those are some things to kind of think about there. When it comes to short-term, long-term emotional stress, we're all going to have different stressors that come up in our life. That's just part of it. But it's what can you do to help lower that stress while you're in it, whether it's like different type of meditation techniques, deep breathing, doing what makes you happy. And then, sometimes when it comes to different, physical trauma, I think a lot about football players. If we're in contact sports and doing things like that, just being more cautious. Our inflammatory foods. If we know sugar, alcohol, dairy, grains, and gluten are inflammatory, can cause leaky gut syndrome, what can we do to lower that intake? Okay, so maybe we're, as again coming across with the approaching holidays here, maybe we don't have, 5 cookies, we scale it back to 3 or something like that, When it comes to gut infections here, I know that we have talked about especially parasites. You can kind of test yourself for that. We'll actually talk about here lately or later about a stool test that you can do. We probably all have a degree of a parasite infection. We'll just say, I mean, if you like sushi, if you don't eat your steak all the well done, which I know I like my medium, you're at risk right there for parasites. So something to kind of think about. Environmental toxins, a big one is if you bring your lunch, try and bring it in a glass container to be microwaved and not a plastic one. So, and then of course, when it comes to medications here, we all get prescribed antibiotics when we're sick. Antibiotics are great. They kill out all the bacteria, good and bad. Okay, so that's why we need to follow that up with probiotics. So that way we can repopulate those good organisms. Which actually comes to the next slide here of how do we heal the leaky gut? So a couple of things that you can do if you're not sure about, say, different environmental irritants, like say your laundry soap, your bath soap, shampoo, you can actually go to ewg.org, and they can tell you what has the most carcinogens in them. So for some people that are really sensitive, if you have an autoimmune disease, your body is going to be sensitive. We got to remember our skin is our largest organ, okay? We've got to think that whatever we put on our skin, it's transdermal, okay? It's going to be soaked through and get into the bloodstream. All right. So if we are using a laundry soap that has a lot of chemicals in it, maybe you go and switch it to one that has less chemicals, something like that. Talking about low stomach acid. We talked about last time why stomach acid was so important, right? It's not just also to break down our foods, it's also to sterilize our foods, it's to help with promoting bile for our gallbladder, which also makes sure that we go to the bathroom, that we eliminate. We also have what's called our intrinsic factor, making sure we are absorbing our B12 vitamins. I mean, there's a lot with stomach acid that we need. So a lot of people with Hashimoto's have low levels of stomach acid. So that may be something to look at, if you know someone or maybe you have it, to have some betaine with pepsin. And that's also going to help with that leaky gut syndrome because we're going to be promoting that good acidic environment for our gut, for our stomach, rather. Making sure we have a healthy variety of organisms, so those probiotics. So, National offers the betaine and probiotics here. So if you need some, we can get some to you. Making sure that you don't have any H. pylori or stomach bacteria or ulcers. You're going to need to go to your primary care provider for that. We used to test for H. pylori. They no longer test it by blood anymore. Now it has to be by breath or by stool. And then we do have some supplements that help support healing of the guts. These ones here are Dr. Lewis's favorites. We've got the Bravo, definitely is one of his favorites. I actually did the Bravo. I don't know if anyone else has. I actually enjoyed it, and that was when I thought my gut health was like optimal. I didn't think I would feel any feel any better than what I did on it, and it actually helped more with my more cognitively, with creativity and with more, I guess, brain power. I guess I didn't get as tired easily mentally. So that was really neat. I do use also the Ion here. The Ion is really good. It's kind of in between like a probiotic and a fulvic mineral. It is a liquid. These all really are going to help promote that good organisms, but also help with that gut lining. L-glutamine and collagen powder, that's really going to actually help more with the junctions coming back together and staying strong. L-glutamine is an amino acid. If you're going to do a protocol that's helping for leaky gut syndrome, you're going to want to do a powder, 2 to 5 grams a day. That's going to really help with those forming of the junctions back. And then collagen powder. I know I recommend collagen powder a lot for people with stiff joints and for their knees, but it's also at the same time as helping your gut. And of course, we need your omega-3s, which is your cod liver oil. All righty. So there are some other supplements that Dr. Lewis recommends. We got for the coating and soothing of the gut line, we got aloe, marshmallow, slippery elm, okra, licorice. We've got reducing inflammation, oxidative stress with the omega-3s and the quercetin. repairing and strengthening intestinal cells with zinc and B vitamins. That's all going to help with supporting the immune balance. What's really neat to see here is the progression of leaky gut syndrome, because it's not like it just happens one day, oh, now I have leaky gut syndrome. This is something that's progressed for years. All right, we all start here when we're born with a healthy gut, right? Because nothing's happened to it. We've got, a healthy diet, maybe low stress, minimum inflammation, nothing's leaking into the bloodstream, okay? Now, as life goes on, maybe we have some antibiotics, we've got some stress going on, we've got different, dairy, gluten products come in. We've got to also think about chewing. If we do not chew our foods properly, the bigger pieces of the food that we swallow can actually hurt our gut lining too. It takes a lot for the stomach to break it down, but it will also contribute to leaky gut syndrome. So making sure we're chewing our food properly. So that's going to cause some distress here and some GI inflammation. That's where we're going to have some of those starting of those maybe signs of fatigue that we have talked about before. And then you're going to go into, continuous, okay, of that gut inflammation, and we're going to have more of that those junctions wanting to weaken. Okay, as you see here, we've got spaces. So now we've got these spaces where all these irritants can then pass through. Undigested food particles, medications, toxins, they slip through the cells and go right into your bloodstream. So that's where we're more susceptible for having those autoimmune health issues. And then we've got full-blown leaky gut syndrome. Okay, there is a blood-brain barrier breach. So that's why maybe we can feel anxious, depressed. Maybe our memory is not the greatest. We got a lot of brain fog. We've got food intolerances happening now. Inflammation, we talked about autoimmunity, malabsorption, nutrient deficiency, and weakening of the immune system. So how do we test for this? Okay, so we know what to do. We know what causes it. We know what to avoid or lessen. But how do we test for leaky gut syndrome? You can definitely do that functional stool testing. So looking at the gut microbiome and other markers. Honestly, I think that's probably maybe even a little bit better than the zonulin. The zonulin keeps going back and forth whether that's a good indicator or not. But what zonulin is a protein that regulates the permeability of those tight junctions within the intestinal cells. When it's elevated, it indicates increased intestinal permeability. So when you have elevated zonulin, that means you have some leaky gut syndrome going on. But honestly, if you were going to spend money on anything, I would look into a functional stool testing because they can definitely tell you. It'll definitely tell you the different organisms that are in your stool, the good and the bad. What you're even lacking, so that way you need to maybe increase. And then if you need any further investigation from your provider. All right, so we have our action steps, right? We know what we're going to do, how we're going to heal the gut. We're going to lower all these inflammatory foods. All right, if we do take different medications, make sure that we are taking probiotics with them. Environmental toxins, try not to use anything microwavable in the microwave, plastic in the microwave. And then if you still have a lot of gut issues, maybe look at being tested for some gut infections here. All right, we'll try to make it short and sweet. We've got next month, we're going to be talking about movement, sleep, and de-stress to kind of really help tie it all in. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions, make sure that you email me.